This is Peter Gaylord. I'm the CEO of Gaylord and Belinsky Wealth Management. And today I want to talk to you a bit about the subject of global investing, and in particular, look at the emerging markets. At Gaylord and Belinsky, we are firm believers in global investing, and within that context, we also believe that emerging markets should be a key element in many investors' investment portfolios. And we're going to talk a bit about that. Over the last 30 years, I've done a lot of traveling around the world to about 40 countries. I spent a couple of years living in Asia and Europe. Next week I'm going to make my third trip for the year to Asia. So far this year I visited Taipei, Shanghai, Manila, and Bangkok, among other places. And I'd like you to start off by thinking a bit about your views on emerging markets. I'm going to show you one slide here and ask you to think about if this is the way you view emerging markets. So that slide obviously was meant to interject a little bit of humor, but a lot of people, I think, have the idea that emerging markets are a lot like Indiana Jones. And obviously the world has changed quite a bit since then. So now I'm going to show you the second slide and see if this is more close to your view. If the second slide is more the perception that you have about emerging markets and other parts of the world, you probably have done some traveling yourself. So now what I want to do is tell you a bit about why we think emerging markets present a compelling opportunity for many investors. The slide I just showed you highlights a very interesting fact, and that is that by the year 2024, it's estimated that emerging markets will comprise more than 50% of global GDP. The fact that emerging markets in about a decade's time will comprise more than half of global GDP is a key reason to consider investing in those markets. Now, there are a few other key points that we believe are the major drivers. First, McKinsey has done an estimate that 2 billion people in the middle class now live in emerging markets, and each year they are spending $6.9 trillion. In the next decade, according to McKinsey, this amount is expected to go to $20 trillion, which is about twice current U.S. consumption. So this obviously is a key factor. The kind of growth, both in percentage terms and absolute terms, shows that there's a tremendous amount of spending that's being done in these markets. And so the investment environment there can be expected to experience a lot of growth. Also, the populations in most of the emerging markets are relatively young compared to the developed markets of the US, Europe, Japan, and other such places. And finally, one very key important point to consider is the fact that today emerging markets are expected to go to half of global GDP, but they only actually comprise about 11% of global market capitalization among all the stock markets of the world. And we think reasonably it can be expected that that share of global market cap will move towards the share of global GDP over the next decade. And therefore, investors who are prepared to deal with some of the shorter-term volatility can expect to realize superior growth in the emerging markets. So as you consider your portfolio, you really want to look at investing in more of global terms. In fact, one of the ironies I've noticed is that when I've done a lot of travel to places, especially in Europe and the Middle East, what I've observed is that when you're in China or Dubai or Southeast Asia or places like that, you see very modern infrastructure, rail, airports, highways, office buildings, consumer outlets, restaurant chains, things like that. When you're in the emerging markets, things are very modern, and when you come back to the U.S., it's a bit of a shock, but the country here actually looks much more run down. The infrastructure is often poor, the highway system's poor, the bridges are in bad condition, a lot of the buildings are old. And so doing that travel really fundamentally impacts your worldview. So I know it has in my case. So we think that global investing is a key element, and emerging markets are something that many investors should be considering. So if you'd like to talk to us some more, or see some more of our videos here on YouTube, or follow us on Twitter, we're at Gaylord Belinsky on Twitter. We have our YouTube channel here, and we've put our contact information in the comments section for this video. So we look forward to speaking with you. Thanks very much.